Back another Friday, TGIF. Guys, where do I begin? I got a bunch of vlogs to put up. You guys know my routine. Typically, we put out vlogs between 3 and 11. Depends if I get off. Like during the weekday, as soon as I get home, I gotta hit the gym up at 4:30. So if I get done before 4:30, and if I have time, I'll put up a vlog before 4:30. But typically, if I can't make it back in time, I'll just put the vlog up when I get back from the gym during the weekday. But guys, be on the lookout. I got at least 3 vlogs to put out, plus a bunch of shorts I got to put out this weekend. So you guys know the routine. And also, guys, another thing, I've been getting a lot of DMs. I appreciate the support. I've been getting a lot of DMs with questions in regards to like random shit that I post. This is in regards to maintenance service or whatever. I actually got at least 2 vlogs coming out, answering at least 2 questions that I seen in the DM. Guys, I don't always check the DM if I'm rocking and rolling throughout the day. I post what I see throughout the day, but throughout the day, guys, if I'm on the road, I try to answer what I can or check out what I can when I get the time. But I'll try my best, like I said, probably next week to try to make more topics based on the DMs, based on the questions I get. I think one of them was with an igniter. I forgot the other one, but yeah, guys, like I said, for sure, if you have any questions regarding, like I said, anything that you guys see on service calls or vice versa, anything that you see, I record, whether it be maintenance service or whatever, just feel free to either drop the questions in the comments, or you can hit up my DM on Instagram. I'm not really on a Facebook one, but for sure, just hit me up on the DM on Instagram, any questions. And like I said, guys, we're all about learning. Like I said, whatever you guys can learn from me, that's only going to make you better. I'm just posting and I'm just rocking and rolling, guys. But we're going to talk about the topic of today's video. Sales slumps. This is something, guys, I got at least 4 or 5 topics. I don't have time all the time to do live GMC talks, but guys, I can do this every Friday when I get done. But today's topic is going to be sales slumps. Now, for you guys, I don't know what you do. If you guys do service, if you do install, if you do maintenance, or whatever the case is, regardless of what you do, you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. That's just the nature of the beast, guys. But in regards to sales slumps, I'm saying, like, if your company is big enough in which you have a dedicated sales guy, like if you go out on a no heat call or no AC call, if you recommend a replacement and you book appointments for the sales guys to come out, that's cool. Or if your boss trusts you to make the sale, if you go out, same ideal. If you go out on a no heat call or no AC call and you recommend a replacement, but it's on you to sell, regardless, guys, like you're gonna get some of them, like I said, but some of these calls, like I said, and this is what I'm gonna give you guys a few more minutes to jump in this live. But some of these calls, guys, I feel like you can do everything up until that point right, or at least in your head, you feel like you're doing everything right and you're saying everything right. And guys, sometimes, like I said, things don't always happen, like I said, exactly how you have it planned. I think the old saying goes, you tell God your plans. If you want to hear God laugh, you tell him your plans. So guys, there is no straight line to like any of this stuff. That's why, I always say, you got to take your emotions out of what you do. Not to say you shouldn't care, but you don't want to get too caught up in your head as far as like, if you're having a good day, oh, every day needs to be like this. Or if you're having a bad day, you don't want to be too down on yourself. You always want to stay like even keel, and that's a skill you guys should learn from going through it. And like I said, you gotta swing on both ends of the pendulum. You gotta have great days, you gotta have bad days to know the difference of like, look, regardless if I'm going on these no AC calls and no heat calls, I'm always gonna be optimistic, but I'm not gonna put a false pretense in my head of assuming every customer is always gonna say yeah. Or I'm not gonna go into every service call thinking that a customer is automatically gonna say no to everything I do. Just understand what you're there for. Like I said, try to get bad experiences out of your head, whether it's, if you missed the estimate on your last call, if you didn't get that to close, or, if you couldn't figure out what the issue was on your last call and your boss got to send someone else to come out. I mean, it is what it is, guys, but, you got to have the right mentality when it comes to, like I said, what you go through. You can't go into anything too emotional. I've seen guys really, lose their shit over things that's not really that important in the grand scheme of things. I'm looking at the comments, guys. I'm getting better with looking at these comments because I can ramble off for hours. Hi, what's going on? Cash, what's up? Appreciate that. Yeah. I ain't answering BS comments. But guys, like I said, with the topic of what I'm gonna go over as far as with sales slumps, I'll say like this, like, I can give you I can give you examples of, like, say, what I went through, but, like, guys, I'm at the point now where, like I said, I reached a sage level, to the point where, like, I don't really feel like no one can knock me off my rock besides me. Like, and like I said, guys, based on previous videos, I told y'all, like, the mental health aspect, there's really not much else that can happen besides, like, some self-infliction type of problems, like, and, like, I can't even give you a scenario because, like I said, guys, you live and you learn, hopefully you guys are learning from your past experiences. But, like, most of this stuff, like I said, and I can give you prime examples with me, if you based on what I'm going through, I'm talking, like, for years prior, if I didn't know how to fix something, and like I said, I'm talking before business, if I didn't know how to fix something, and, like, I'm calling my boss, like, yo, boss, like, I got a gas valve not doing XYZ. He's telling me, yo, like, I can't keep you there for too long. You already been there for 2 hours. You got to get to another 3 to 5. I got to send someone else out there. Guys, when I first started, that shit used to piss me off because I always like fixing things, guys. Like, it's hard to explain. I know some of you guys aren't wired like this as well. Like, I get satisfaction from actually completing what I start. I don't like starting a million and one things and then leaving it work. Like, I'm not good at, like, starting things without finishing it. Like, I don't know, guys. Most of the time that works out for the best. I ain't saying I don't want you guys to start a bunch of negative things, but, like, when I start diagnosing something, I need to see things through to the end. Otherwise it's going to really mess with me. I'm gonna think about that from now until, like I said, the next situation I go on, if I can get it right. And, like, prime example, guys, with that gas valve, like, when I started off, the boss let me do maintenances, but, like I said, he never really, at that point, he didn't trust me to, like, fix things. And I'm like, yo, boss, like, what happened with such and such last week with that gas valve? Who the technician I went out there, and he asked me, yo, why do you want to know? I'm like, I need to know, like, based on what I tried, it didn't work. I need to know, like, what was the result? Was it a bad gas valve? Was it something wrong with the circuit board? What's going on? And, guys, that's how I'm wired. By now, you should already know that. We're HVAC junkies, like I said, But the point is, at that time, like, that wasn't the right situation for me, like I said, because I like learning things. And at that time, I didn't put a lid on what I wanted to learn. But, like, that at that company, it didn't really work out. But, like I said, guys, like, initially I was discouraged. I'm like, yo, like, damn, like, I need to know how to troubleshoot XYZ. If I don't know how to troubleshoot XYZ, like, it's really, I need to figure this shit out. There's really no other way. I can't just stop thinking about this and do something else. Like, no, I need to either try to find a course online, or I need to try to call a senior tech. I need to figure something out, try to figure out what did I do wrong on diagnosing, like I said, guys. And that's just, once again, taking the initiative has a lot of positives to it. You're going to learn a bunch of shit, but, like I said, but back to what I was saying with the sales slumps, like, if things go left, like I said, if you guys are out here, if you have a set objective each and every day, like, I'm talking service wise, if you got a set objective of doing, like, 3 or 4 service calls, and, like I said, guys, for the most part, if you have a set agenda and you have your own routine, I'm talking if you following company guidelines, you should have a desired outcome to everything you do. Like, no one's going to go on a no AC call or no heat call and assume that they're not going to be able to fix it the same day. At least I hope you guys don't. Hopefully you make same day repairs. You're not just ordering things to come back next week. But, like, if you have a set idea in your head, like, look, okay, I already been to such and such house last year. You guys already see me, how I preface all my videos. I already been to most of these customers before. So, like, I already have the tendency of knowing, like, okay, what can possibly go wrong on this unit. But, like, if you guys go into each and every service call with the right mentality, and, like, you guys already know that, hey, you're confident in your capabilities. You're not going to a service call thinking about, oh, is this that boiler from last year, or this is that boiler that I, like, guys, like, and like I said, and I can only assume, like I said, maybe for you guys that's just starting off, you may have those jitters, those pre-game jitters, but, like, and guys, that's all par for the course. You're going to be nervous. You're going to, for anything new, especially when you have high expectations to, like I said, to be successful at whatever the case is. It's going to be a lot of jitters, a lot of, like I said, a lot of nerves, but, like, eventually, guys, you start to realize most of those jitters and nerves are coming from you. And, like, I was reading something the other day, guys, about this. It said that your perception of a problem will always be bigger and always be worse than the problem itself. And I'm going to repeat this. It says your perception of an issue will always be bigger than the issue itself. So, like, prime example, if I'm going into a sales call tomorrow morning to, a heat estimate to replace a furnace, I'm going to a call with a preconceived notion like, yeah, I hope this customer gets this done. I hope, like in the back of my mind, guys, I can accidentally psych myself up, and now that can lead me to like become. But you get what I'm saying, guys? That's not a good look. Like, just keep it chill, and like I said, guys, follow your scripts. Assuming you guys are following some type of training protocol, just like said, execute, guys. There's not really much to it, like. And I try, once again, guys, I like keeping things as simple as possible. I don't like overcomplicating things, because like say, if you overcomplicate things, it's going to be less likely for someone to remember it. And then now, once they fall off script, it's just like, guys, like, you don't want to just have whatever and happening on service calls and estimates. Like, at least that's how we roll. But guys, like I said, with these sales slumps, they're gonna it's gonna be multiple times, like I said, in your career, especially starting off, where you're gonna have to crash and burn. But like I said, guys, like, if you have the right mentality and like you're gonna stay positive, you're gonna learn a lot more from your failures than you are from the job that you do win. I repeat, you're gonna learn a lot more from the jobs you don't win versus the jobs that you do win. Prime example, like I said, guys, the estimates that we do win, most of these are from pre-existing customers. I don't want to say jobs in the bag. You still have to present yourself, and you still have to listen to the customer. I don't believe in like too many blank check customers. I used that analogy before, blank check. But at the end of the day, the reputation is there. Most customers do know us that we deal with, but at the end of the day, it's easier to lose a customer than it is to gain a customer. But like, guys, like, I always train my guys just on mentality. I mean, that's the biggest thing, just having the right mentality, because it's too easy, guys. Like, we live in a world full of distractions. We live in a world full of negativities. It's too easy for you to just sink into like what you see or what you're hearing. It could be either coworkers, or it could be something else totally not related to HVAC. And now, as soon as you go to a service call, now you're not even thinking about the task at hand. You're thinking about probably what you're doing after the call. You're probably thinking about something that happened yesterday. And guys, like, it's too easy to get sidetracked. And like I said, like, once you start losing jobs like that, and hopefully if you're holding yourself accountable, you just have to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, what could I have done differently? Or what could I have done better to hopefully land me a job, land this to, if it's an estimate, what could I have done better or different to have a better outcome next time? And like I said, guys, it's always going to be the next man up, the next opportunity up. You can't get too down on yourself if you don't land a sale. For one, if you're confident in your systems as far as how you go from A to B, hearing customers out, listening to their pain points, whatever the case is. I'm talking sales and service, guys, like, because if you're going to know he called and you can't fix it, ultimately, if it's not worth fixing, if it's like an 80-year-old furnace or a boiler, eventually that turns into a sales opportunity. So at that point, guys, if you're confident enough in your capabilities to fix things, and like I said, communication with customers, you can keep things simple and you can use realistic examples. I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't have more positive outcomes than negative. But guys, remember, everybody's different. Y'all can say the same thing as me, and I can say the same thing as y'all, and we can end up having two totally different scenarios, two totally different outcomes. So like, that's kind of like, that's the beauty of, like I said, self-perspection. You never know, guys, like how a 20-year-old tech could perceive an estimate could be way different from a 40-year-old tech. And like I said, you have to respect everybody's opinion, because like, I have like I'm a very chill guy, guys, but I have my own personality that works for me. I can't put my personality in somebody else that doesn't see things the same way that I see things. That'll be wrong for me, like, everybody has their own different ideals, but the common goal should be the same, to do business with that customer, listen to their problems, make sure you as the service provider, you're providing the customer with the right options. And like I said, guys, like, it's easy to close that way. You're not, like I said, I don't know how else to describe closing a call. That's the easiest way to do it. But like I said, guys, but is this mentally? I mean, I heard stories like some guys, they read books as far as with, HVAC sales. I mean, that can work as well, but like, I like using my own experiences as far as like things I know I've seen before with my own eyes. Like, if I know last week, for instance, in the summertime, if I know last week I've been on a no AC call, and like 4 of those no AC calls resulted in me recommending a replacement, and I took pictures of the model and serial number, I listened to like customers' pain points, and I drafted up proposals on each and every one, and none of them closed. At that point, guys, I'm gonna say, you know what? All right, what can I follow up with? Like, what did I probably didn't like? What did the customer tell me that I probably overlooked? I like I said, guys, you have to be your own worst critic, because like I said, no one's gonna hold your hand with this as far as like what you self-improving. I'm talking like as a service tech. you have to always be your own worst critic, meaning you always have to find ways of improving. Sometimes when other people probably will tell you otherwise. Other people might tell you you might be doing a good job, but like I said, guys, you have to eventually, once you get to that level of experience, it's going to be you versus you, because you can easily, you know, you can easily fall back and say, you know what, all right, I'm already at this level. I already know the basics. Like, nah, I mean, if you're cool with that, I mean, you're cool with that. But like I said, guys, if you kind of like had that desire to like I said, want to improve and want to be better than what you was last year, I mean, shit, it's definitely there, but you have to hold yourself accountable. You know, you can't really wait for like a manager or a boss to like tell you, hey, you know, you have to improve. Like, you got to have that desire already in yourself, you know, that motivation to like want to improve. But like, you know, how I started off, it was already like that. You know, it didn't take me losing a job or like I said, something happening in my personal life for me to have that desire. You know, it's either sink or swim. You know, I told y'all that on the other video, you know, like that desire, you can, with that mentality of sink or swim, you can apply that to any areas in your life. You know, once you know that, like, yo, if I choose not to do nothing, like, that's a worst case scenario. Like, fuck that. Let me just, you know, let me double it down. Like I said, like, let me just put the time in, put the work in. And like I said, regardless of where you end up, even if you don't end up where you chose to be, that's going to be way better than where you are right now, not doing nothing. You feel what I'm saying? So, like I said, guys, like, sales is all about mentality. You know, you have to have competencies and all of that, guys. But I think with this sales stuff, it all doubles down to just, you know, just understanding yourself. You know, like, I feel like you have to understand the customers as well. But like, if you try to understand every single customer, that's when you realize, like, you're going to turn into a robot. You know, every customer is different. There's a core, you know, I feel like there's a core belief of, like, say, human interactions, like, that you can read up on. But at the end of the day, guys, like, if you try to overcomplicate simple things, like, understand why the customer is calling you out there. Like, they're probably calling you out there because they probably have a need for something, and like, they called you to fill that desire, whether that be fixing a heater AC unit, whether that be giving them options to replace a unit. But like, God, I see this happen to me, guys. I see people overplay their hand, and like I said, once you turn a simple situation into something overcomplicated, that's how you lose customers. And like I said, it's not going to work out in your favor, guys. And like, the only way you can really get to this level is if you have to look yourself in the mirror and realize, like I said, where you're going wrong. I can't tell you. I mean, I don't know how, you know, how for you guys that do sales or whatever the case is, I don't know how the company structure is, but like, if I'm not with someone and they're telling me, hey, like, I went on an estimate, I didn't win it. All right, well, how do you feel it went wrong? What happened? Like, did you listen to the customer? What was their pain points? Oh, they had pain points. She said that she wanted something economical. She didn't really care about high efficiency. Okay, what did you present her? I presented her A, B, C, D. All right, what's next? Okay, so how did you present it? All right, once you presented things, like, how did it go? Was she like, so like, guys, like, based on like, in past a certain point, like I said, you can tell when like someone's bullshitting you. Like, if I'm talking for you guys to have like employees, like, you can tell if, like, if, you know, someone lies to you and say, like, yeah, I just lost the lead because I lost it. I've already been in that scenario, guys. Like, and at the end of the day, we're all about getting better. Like, so I hold myself accountable. I like holding all my other guys accountable. So like I said, we're only going to learn. We're only going to get better. But like, I can easily tell within the first like 4 or 5 minutes of someone explaining how a sales call went, I can pretty much tell you exactly how that call went, as far as like what they could have did differently. So like, and understand, guys, once I said this early in the video, not every customer is going to say yes to everything you do. Some customers, they're going to need time. You know, if they need to talk with husband or wife, they need more time, pass decisions over a certain amount. You know, I heard this a million and one times. You know, any financial decisions over $500, I got to speak with the spouse about it. And there's nothing you can do about it, guys. Like, but you can't overplay your hand and mess things up by trying to rush decisions. And I've seen that before too. I never teach my guys to rush decisions. Like, you know, if it's a 95-degree day or a 5-degree day outside, and the customer, we're out for a no heat call or no AC call, and unfortunately the repair is not feasible, and now either me or my guys are out there, we're recommending replacing a system, we can give a customer the price right then and there, so they can see the price of replacement. But if they say, okay, we'll tell you what, I appreciate the estimate, give me some time, let me figure something out, instantly, guys, I'm gonna abide by what they just said. They need time to figure it out. Like, I never understood that aspect of sales, as far as like people thinking that there's an answer to someone saying that they need time. Like, if I tell, like, and guys, I can only put myself in that position. I'm saying not with HVAC, but like with anything else. If I'm going to Staples right now to buy a laptop for $1,000, the guy doesn't know what I can afford. He's only looking at, probably the questions. He's probably looking at the computers I'm looking at. Hey, is there anything I can help you with? If I say, hey, I need a laptop with like 10 gigabytes, whatever the case is, and the guy tells me, yeah, there's a laptop here for $1,000. If I tell him like, all right, that's a good laptop, but tell you what, give me a couple of days, I might come back, let me look at it, let me look at the info online. If I tell a representative that I need more time, and now he's asking me more questions like, yeah, you sure you don't want to do this today, yada yada. Eventually, I'm just not going to come back there, guys. And that's just me. Like I said, guys, like I always tell you to separate your feelings from the scenario. But like I said, guys, sometimes this shit is no different than like what mechanics face or what any customer service people face. It's really no different. If like it's a lot easier to lose a job than it is to win a job, guys. I said this in multiple videos. Like in that scenario, if like I said, if I clearly told the guy or the representative that I need time and I feel like I'm being pressured, I'm just going to walk away and just never come back. And that's exactly what happened with HVAC sales calls in people's homes. They might tell you, hey, let me look into this, let me figure it out. But like if you pester them and like, hey, you sure? What about? Gosh, come on, like that's not, you like I said, guys, and I hope, either the company you're with, I hope someone's giving you guys a game like this, but like it's not really, this shit isn't really rocket science. At least maybe how I look at it, it's not rocket science. I don't know. But like how I started off like on a clean slate. I didn't start off from a sales background. I started off with just learning, the mechanics, how things work. But I learned customer service on the back end. When I first started off, I thought you was good. As long as you knew how to fix things, I thought you'll be good to go. But like, guys, learning how to fix things and not knowing how to communicate things with customers, that's not a good deal. Like I always tell guys, like it's two sides to the puzzle. There's technical expertise and there's communication. You can know how to do this stuff all day, guys, but if you can't communicate effective enough with a customer to a point where they understand, not your colleagues or your boss, but if you can't communicate what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it to a customer in a way that they can understand, you're no different than someone that doesn't know anything. And like it took me a while to understand that concept, guys, but like it's really like I said, customer service is something that you learn and you get better at. But like no one comes into I'm talking out into HVAC. No one comes into customer service in this industry a polished product. There's always going to be bumps and bruises, but like I said, guys, everything I'm telling you is something I had to learn or something I had to go through. But if I didn't hold myself accountable and say, look, maybe I'm making this too complicated. Like maybe I just need to get down to the black and white. If I wasn't honest with myself, I would have lost a lot more jobs than like I said I would have won, guys. And that's just the honest to God truth. Like sales is just, it really is just an agreement. But like I said, guys, that agreement in its own is just a simple term. It's not really, like I said, guys, and like not to confuse this with like other options. Like you got some customers that, like I said, it's your job to lose. Like, and like I said, it's up to you if you want to do the job or not. I'm not talking about those easy like blank check customers. I'm talking about customers that's calling you for the first time. It's on you to sell yourself, sell the company, and sell the customer on why you're the best, service provider for that job, for that repair, for that replacement. Like that's something that, you can mess it up more easier than you can actually win the job. I'm looking at the comments here. Hold on, guys. I ain't learned. Robbie, what you talking about? You ain't learned from nothing. But like I said, guys, I mean, with sales, it's really nothing to it. I mean, you just gotta know, like I said, guys, if you have a core competency, everything starts, at least this is how I believe, everything starts with you having a core competencies, like basic controls. You already know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, I don't know how this looks starting from a customer service background and not an HVAC background. I mean, not to say, anything's not possible. It could work, but like I said, guys, like, you need to know what you're doing, because like I said, I think someone was talking about this, guys, a couple of months ago, like the dynamic between, like, let's say if someone didn't come from an HVAC background, they came from like a teaching background, well, a retail background. Let's say someone worked at CVS or ShopRite or whatever, and then they started to do HVAC. You never know, like their ability to learn things, like I said, it could be higher or lower than someone else, but like I believe it's a lot easier to teach someone from a mechanical background, to teach them, like I said, this is no slight towards anybody. Like I said, regardless of where you came from, like I said, you know, as long as you got a desire to want to get to a level, I don't care what it is, whether it be business, whether it be being the top, you know, sales tech, top install tech at your company, as long as you have that desire to want to do it, and you put the work in, you put the time in, regardless of where you came from, you can definitely get there. But like someone mentioned, like it's easier to teach someone from a mechanic background. It's easier to teach them people than it is to teach a people person a mechanic background. And I'm like, I can see it working and I can see it not working on both sides. Because like, gosh, one thing I didn't mention, like I'm talking from the coworkers I had over the years. There was a lot of coworkers, like I said, that I had that hands down, like I seen them, like I said, kill it just with fixing things. Like it was nothing that they couldn't install and nothing they couldn't fix. But like once I started understanding how the company operated, I'm like, how come they don't have that one person that knows how to do everything? How come they don't have them speak with customers? How come they don't have him do X, Y, Z? And that's when I realized, like I said, most mechanically inclined people, they just like to fix shit and that's it. They don't really like to explain things. They just like to fix things. And like I said, they'll have someone else to, you know, maybe the office person call the customer on the repair. And I'm like, and I'm like, if I'm at the customer's house and like I know how to fix a 50-year-old boiler, you better believe I'm gonna bring the customer down to that 50-year-old boiler, and I'm gonna explain to Mr. or Mrs. I'm gonna say, hey, XYZ, here's what I did. I'm like, that's part of your job, explaining shit. I'm like, why wouldn't I want to explain it? And guys, I in the back of my mind, I'm just registering like everything I'm seeing. I'm like, wait, this is almost like you need two people for one job. Like, how can someone do something but not explain it? I'm like, that's kind of like, that's like only 50% of the job. So like, and I'm like that. And guys, maybe that's how I was back in the day. Like I said, some guys maybe, you know, they wasn't really a people person as far as communicating. But like nowadays, I feel like most guys are probably more people person, but maybe they don't have the technical expertise, and like that's where things can go left. If you don't have the technical expertise, you know, a customer may like it, but eventually, guys, how far are you going to go? You know, you're not going to get any good reviews from customers saying, hey, Mr. Such and Such, he was a good person, but he didn't come out to fix the problem. Like most customers, like I said, eventually, you know, once the pleasantries goes out the window, hey, how you doing, yada yada. Okay, can you fix the problem? If not, then like, come on, what are we doing? At least that's how most of our customers are. Like I said, it's all cool, it's all love, and like I said, you guys know most of the time I BS, I bullshit. Like most of the time, what me and our customers talk about is not really HVAC, but like they already know the core competencies are already there. So I don't want to like say, I don't want to sugarcoat this or like lead you guys in the wrong direction. It's great to have your own personality and how you do things. It's great to be personable with customers, but you got to know what you're doing too, guys. I always treat those like two different halves of the same circle, guys. You do not want to be too overly technical and lose customers. Like, and I've seen this shit, guys. When I tell you, I've seen this shit happen plenty of times. Guys are too technical, and like I said, and they can't help it, because like I said, guys, at the end of the day, we're all HVAC junkies. Like, we talk about controls, we talk about things that we see all the time. We never think about simplifying things, because like most of the time we're talking to HVAC guys that's doing what we're doing. But like in regards to you know, being too overly technical, you may be explaining things in a way that if a customer hears you, I'm talking in the customer's house. Like if I explain to him like, hey, like I found no volts at the circuit board, I'm explaining to the customer what I'm doing, and I'm not lying. But like if I'm not simplifying what I'm saying, like a customer's gonna look at me like, what the hell is this guy's talking about? And I've been there and I've done that before, guys. Like when I first started off doing maintenances, like I said, I wish I would have had a camcorder around that time. Like I was only explaining what I was doing, but I didn't know customer service. I didn't know, like, a customer doesn't really care about your process of fixing things, but can you actually fix it? That's kind of like, that's what really matters. And like, I didn't really know about this shit. Like, I mean, it took me losing a bunch of renewals. It took a lot of customers calling my boss saying, hey, like, the tech came out. Like, I didn't understand what he was saying. He said he had to troubleshoot X, Y, Z. And like, my boss I had to get a call from the boss man. This is back in like, what, 2013, 2014. He was like, yeah, Drew, yeah. It's not like you don't have to explain technical things to a customer. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, that's part of my job, right? He was like, no, like, you have to keep it simple. You can't you can't have it too technical. Otherwise, you're going to confuse customers. I'm like, all right, I got you. And guys, that's something I had to learn. You know, I took my losses in stride. And like I said, like, I learned to keep it simple. And me keeping it simple is not excluding important things from the customer. You know, I always keep things like on a need to know basis, but I always make sure it's not like overly complicated. You know, it doesn't make sense unless the customer wants to do the job themselves. Like what benefit is it to them for you to tell them like, hey, like I found 24 volts here and there. I didn't like, nah, guys. Imagine how that sounds. That's gonna sound crazy as hell. Like that's like a mechanic telling you, hey, I may have to troubleshoot 24 volts here and there. Eventually, I'm gonna say, okay, well, what's the issue? Like, can you fix it? It's either yes or no, you know. So like, gosh, technical stuff is good, but you want to make sure that you have some communication skills as well. I'm not saying like go out of your personality. Everybody has their own personality. Whether you're stoic, whether you're outgoing, whatever the case is, guys, you want to be who you are, but make sure that, like I said, you're you can get the job done. That's kind of like what it boils down to. And like, I'm pretty sure if you guys have your own shop or if you work for someone, no two technicians are exactly the same. You can have different ideals, you can have different processes, but like I said, guys, the point is with how you choose to deliver. I always tell guys, look, how you get there may be different, but like I said, as long as you get to that finish line, it is what it is. Because I can teach my guys exactly to say what I say, and like it may come out different. So it's like I'm not trying to get anyone to be like me. Like I said, be the best you can be. The best you can be should be valuable to whatever company you're working at. At least that's how I look at it, guys. Like, because like I said, if you're pulling dead weight, if I'm talking for like business owners, if you're pulling dead weight around and guys aren't really motivated to learn more and try to do better things down the line, like, I mean, that's how the company goes backwards, So, but guys, I just had to give you my insight there just on sales. Like, sales is relative. Like I said, business needs sales to grow and to keep the lights on. I'm talking not sales like equipment sales. I'm talking like sales like, service as well, and selling maintenance agreements, selling everything, selling yourself, guys. Like, it's not really, it's all relative. It's all, regardless of where you are in the HVAC industry, you got to convince someone to buy something. That's just the name of the game, guys. And like, some sales guys get a bad rep. Like, you can't really bring morals into sales, like I said, because at the end of the day, guys, you don't know what that company's overhead is. And like, that's another thing I didn't mention. Like I was telling someone the other day, like, I mean, I don't understand hate from one company to another. I'm talking HVAC, guys. Like, at the end of the day, we all do the same stuff. If I see, let's say, guys, prime example, right? Around this time last year, it was slow. The weather didn't break 40 degrees until like damn near November, guys. It was a slow winter, or at least a slow start to a winter. And like, I was doing maintenances, I'm like, it's slow. It's real slow. We're not getting any service calls as far as no heat calls. We're just getting a bunch of maintenances. And I was riding with someone, and I'm like, look, you see that? It was a big box company that probably got bought out by private equity. And I'm like, you see that? He was like, what's going on? I'm like, the fact that that's an install truck, that tells me someone's spending money. And I'm like, that motivates me to know that, like, yo, I don't know what the hell I'm thinking in my head, that there's no opportunities. I'm looking right there. A customer is getting the install done. That's not our customer, but like I said, like, the fact that I see it, like, seeing is believing, guys. And like, that's why, like, it doesn't pay out to be somebody that hates on people, because like I said, guys, as human beings, if you don't know what's possible, you're always going to think that you already seen the best of the best. Like, that's why, like I said, you always got to strive to do something bigger than what you're doing now. But like I said, to hate on someone else that's doing good, I never understood the process or the principle behind looking at somebody doing good and thinking that they're doing something wrong. Like, nah, if I see a company next to us or a company in another state doing installs like crazy, shouts out to them. Keep rocking and rolling, guys. But at least I know it's possible. In the back of my mind, I'm not thinking like, oh man, they might be this company only recommends replacements. They don't fix things. Blah. Guys, that's bullshit. I don't even think like that. If I'm thinking about another company or somebody like that, I'm gonna be like, you know what? He or she is doing their thing. I wish them the best, man. But like, yeah, that's motivation. I got to make sure I'm doing what I got to do. And like, once I get to the opportunity, I got to make sure we handle the business. Or that's how y'all should look at it. But like, that whole hating aspect, like, I feel like, me personally, guys, I feel like if everybody's firing at their best, everybody's trying to be the best they can be. I'm talking in HVAC. I really think it's enough out here for everybody. Like, I don't really have to, like, I'm talking in general. You don't have to be conniving. You don't have to, like, assume that just because a company's doing over a certain amount that they're, like, unethical. Like, I feel like that's just some low-level, like, hater bullshit. Like, I never understood that. And like I said, guys, I don't know. I hope you guys aren't out there on that, like, just trying to sabotage people just for no reason. Like, that's just degenerate behavior. You feel me? Like, I don't know who gets off doing that, but, as long, like I said, guys, just to sum all this up, as long as your brain cap is on the right way, like I said, your thinking cap, you stay positive, like I said, guys. And once again, you make it a goal to learn from each and everything that you go through. I mean, sales is just par for the course, man. And you're going to win a lot more than what you lose, but it's easy to fall into like the fallacy of wanting to, wanting to win each and every sale the same way. Like, no, guys, like not every customer is the same. So that means not every one of your sales are going to be the same. Like, sometimes it's going to take longer for some customers to agree. Sometimes it may take less time for some customers to agree. Like, it depends on the nature of what's going on. So, like, you remember I was telling y'all, like, the preconceived notion thing, like, you can't have idea. I mean, if you have any preconceived notions in your head, just say that, regardless of what you see, regardless of what you run across, you're going to always give yourself opportunity, like, and that's a good needle. That's a good pivot point to have. Like, regardless of what happens, if a customer shows up late, or if whatever the case is, if it's something that, if a customer adds something that we didn't talk about over the phone onto that, whatever the case is, guys, if it's something that's out of your control, you want to make sure that you stay in the positive mentality, guys. And like, that's something that you have to work on, It's not just going to happen by itself, because the only thing that's going to happen by itself is negativity. You're going to have a bunch of reasons why you shouldn't give maximum effort. You're going to have a bunch of reasons why you should just wait until tomorrow. Like, guys, like, that's where the test really begins, just all in your head. If you can really, keep it positive in your head, like I said, guys, I think, you're going to have a lot more wins than you will have losses, but you need to learn from the losses to add more wins. So, like, gosh, and don't get me wrong, winning is important. I ain't going to say it's not, but you need to just understand, everything is a process, guys. Like, you have to, whatever you do win, that's great. But like I said, you're going to definitely, you're going to take some hits, you're going to take some bumps and bruises, but learn from your bumps and bruises. And like I said, guys, you're going to be in a much better spot, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line versus how you thinking now, But guys, I got to get up out of here. That's episode 21, Sales Slumps. Guys, I got a bunch of other topics to go over, but be sure to check it out. I'm going to put out more vlogs later on this week. Well, actually, what's today? Friday. I'm going to put one out later on today. I'm going to put some out Saturday. I think I got a job I got to get to tomorrow as well. But just be on the lookout, guys. More vlogs are coming up. More shorts are coming up. And like I said, guys, I appreciate the support. Like I said, you guys, especially on Instagram, all that, guys. I have a Facebook. I think the link on my profile for Facebook is on my profile on YouTube. You guys are showing a lot of support on Facebook as well. Like I said, I definitely appreciate it. But any questions, once again, like I said, I'll be sure to look at the DM from time to time. But like I said, if I have time off the road, I'll be sure to check it out. But be sure to check out the videos, guys. And before I go, this is why I hate fucking zone valves. I think one of y'all jinxed me by all those zone valve videos I put up. I already had to replace one, guys. So we're Team Circulator Pumps over here. We don't deal with zone valves. But guys, I got to roll. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.